free, if you've got more than one book, feel free to gift it to somebody else. It's a beautiful gift for other people.
I'll get my older.
Yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
The old paperback.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna keep this.
You can borrow this if you don't return it, it's okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So as you are, let's process yesterday a little bit. What was it like? What was it like to be in the room? What was it like to work together? What were some of the things that came up? What were some of the fun things? What were some of the frustrating things? Start just giving some basic thoughts there.
I loved it.
Yeah, so,
I loved it. I had so much fun.
You know, it was fun figuring out the puzzles, but you know what? And I just got this, and I didn't get it last night. It bugged me because there was no structure.
Yeah.
That there wasn't a, okay, this is your first step. Yeah, this is solve this puzzle, then solve this puzzle, and solve this puzzle.
Yeah.
There wasn't any of that, and I just realized that now.
Yeah.
Like, because I went in and I don't know if you noticed, but I'm like, hey, what do we do?
Yeah. So it's more almost,
Isn't that interesting?
it's almost like it's pure problem solving.
Yeah.
Like it's not here's
Like a
your
puzzle
problem,
to
solve
figure
it.
out.
It's like there is a problem.
Identify
There's a problem.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that?
Yeah.
How about that?
And then you have to adapt to it because it's a new situation, right?
Yeah.
Because when we jumped in ours, didn't know what the heck was going on. The first thing we saw was that something trains were like, oh crap, this is something Ottawa. And
Yeah,
all
we
of us
have no clue
We have
what
no
this
clue.
means.
We're screwed. We're stuck, right?
We're never getting out of there.
Alberta has no bias against all.
So then we got through the first one, and then it's hard. Like I said, she was awesome. She took over, but we're both leaders, so it was hard for me to step back. But then we got to a clue that said, do this before this, and I started seeing, okay, if they want it done in segments, you need to do 1 and 2. Otherwise, you can do anything. So I broke up, and she was doing hers, and I was going on her stuff, and we kind of did things together until we got, once you see that it's not really you have to do this and have to do this and have to do this, you can divide and conquer, right?
Yeah.
Just made it easier for me because I'm normally a leader too, and you don't want to have to. So when I figured out that there was only a couple that had to do one before the other, we could do multiple things at once and come together to get a problem.
No, so Rick was going and obviously he's in the wall.
Yeah.
Like, I never would have thought to go in the wall, but if he wouldn't have went in the wall, we never would have figured out the one
Yeah.
puzzle.
When there was the vent and the
Where
key
you had
and
to switch the up and down. He's, oh, there's a switch in here.
Like the
Yeah,
first
no,
room
there's-
was hard for me because she took control. I was like, oh, it's usually me. But you adapt, right?
So just to fit this in, so I was behind with what was his name? Benoit. And we were watching cameras. So on the screen there were 3 cameras, 1 camera. The 3 cameras were where you started. The second 3 cameras were the second rooms that you guys went into, and there was another room. And it was fascinating watching you guys. Not good or bad, just really interesting watching dynamics, watching how people are interacting with each other. Well, what are some of the other things that came out of that? So like I watched that. Benoit a couple of times said, so this is how this room works. He said, I don't want to ruin this for you. And I said, I'm not from Ottawa. I'm never going to do this room. So feel free, just so I can understand where they're at. And he said, well, these things need to happen in this room. These things need to happen in this room. I said, okay. And it was really interesting watching how many times people would focus on certain things that were important or not important, and then move away from them and do something else. So it was interesting when you saw that.
Yeah.
All 3 of you had kind of walked past it a number of times, and all of a sudden you crawled in and we're like, oh, he's got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just fascinating again watching that. What were the experiences for you guys? What were you, Paul?
Time went very fast.
Yeah.
Incredibly fast.
Yeah, insanely fast.
Yeah. And it's I guess it's a metaphor for our lives when we're focused on tasks,
Yeah.
the technical.
Yeah.
It felt like it was about 22 and a half minutes in there.
Yeah. You looked extremely engaged the entire time, like focused. which makes sense if it took 22 minutes. 60 minutes took 22.
And it was hot.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it made it feel kind of real. It was like a
Let's get-
reality thing.
Let's
Almost
get this
like,
done.
okay, we have to get in. Like you're in
Yeah.
this hot bunker, and if we don't get these vials in there, the zombies are coming. That was
That
fun.
pissed us off because we were at the end and there was a little thing that had an alphabet and said it had to be alphabetical. Well, vials here that we couldn't get into had alphabetical letters on them. Vials here didn't, so we're like, I'm trying to get into this stupid box, and we actually just had to put those ones on.
Yeah, we focused on something wrong,
Yeah.
and we got stuck on that because we thought those ones have to go in there.
That's a point that I want to cover in a couple minutes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And I
really
seen
important.
in the back there was a little hole, so I crawled back in there. Thought I had to put my hand through there.
What for you, Sam?
For me, I related to what all this weekend is all about. When I looked at that exercise we went through, it's teamwork. Try to trust your teammates that, and have faith that something will solve it, so, no matter what. So ideas were bouncing off. Let's try this, or let's try. Each one was contributing something. So it's better to work as a team because there's more ideas than being a ranger, or a lone ranger.
Yeah, it's really the point that you make that you know that there's an answer is really important. So that does relate specifically to what we were talking about yesterday. When you are planting these future memories into your subconscious mind, what you're basically doing is telling yourself there is an answer. I'm just waiting to find it. And that's completely different than believing you can't. Because when you believe you can't, you will not work forward in it. Because it doesn't make sense to move forward because you can't anyway. Whereas when you know there's an answer, you're like, okay, well, I've just got to keep figuring this out, figure it out, figure it out. That's a great point. What else?
Also try, like for me, I've never done it before, so it's something new. So that also brings the point that don't be afraid to try something new, because until you try it, you wouldn't know.
Yeah.
And then also that even if we get stuck, there's someone we can call. Or in your case, as mentors or something. So
Yeah.
You can hear us, don't you? Can't you?
No, only when we heard the two-way radios. That was a drawback. Yeah.
Okay, so the rooms aren't bugged.
No, they're not bugged. I can guarantee that. Even through the walls, I wasn't able to hear you. I was trying to listen. Yeah, no way.
Because like what Sam said, you could always call and ask. We had one puzzle and we just couldn't figure it out. It was diamond plus sideways hexagon plus upside down star. So finally I radioed, okay, someone write this down and see if you can figure it out. We did it when you called on the back wall. And then the
Yes.
little light came on with
Yeah.
half the puzzle. Oh, okay. Then we eventually, that's how we unlocked the door to let you guys in. But we couldn't, there was no way, even if we figured out all our puzzles, there was no way we could win without all the teams in there.
Together, yeah.
Because team water was the furthest away and they were still locked two rooms out. And we needed their key to open the plunger to save. So without the whole team, everyone getting together at the end, we couldn't have won anyway. We couldn't have got out.
and also the first time when we went in that room, the first door, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out just to solve that puzzle in that first room. So, which brings to mind us to pay attention to small details instead of looking at the big picture. Because what we did is that those numbers from the bus, try to enter it first. So,
There's a good metaphor there, looking beyond those we can see. It was your group that broke the code that allowed us to get into the next room.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also too, in our first room, we were so focused on the door to get to the next door and kind of what we thought was the end. And in fact, we missed our side door that we really needed the next team next to us in order for your end. So once we got past that room, we never went back. And it would have been nice to get that door open.
Where are we between the two of us?
Yeah.
That
Was it
door.
possible to get that open?
Yeah, that had
there was
to
a
be
lock on our side.
Yeah, you guys had to open your side.
Oh, we did?
And then they had to open theirs, that's how we
Okay.
got into them. They
Yeah.
opened theirs first, I think you guys were open already.
We couldn't figure out how to,
Huh.
we didn't figure out how to join.
Good catch.
Yeah.
That's,
But
I
you,
regret
you guys
that.
had 2 doors though, right? Because you had the one for us. and the
One in the first room and then one in the second room that went to you guys.
It shows,
But there's like
I
seven.
was guilty of linear thinking. I was thinking straight ahead. Whereas if we had gone to the side, joined at the hip, we would have been stronger.
Yeah.
Just having the eye contact
Yeah, made a difference.
would have made, yeah.
Is there anything else, Sam? Yeah?
Okay.
What were you at?
Take backs are a little different. It was, to me, time doesn't really matter. Like, so I kind of lose. Time's just non-existent.
Yeah.
I'm not used to time frames like that.
You're not a clock person.
Not really, no. I'm used to problem solving and stuff in crazy situations, but not having if you don't have it within an hour, you're gonna die kind of thing or whatever. There's always
You know that happens.
there's always you're never gonna die in most situations.
What you're saying is you're not fully prepared for the zombie apocalypse yet.
Exactly. I gotta, as soon as I get home, I start digging my bunk.
Within an hour.
Yeah. So,
What else?
and for me, because I guess I didn't realize, I knew the rooms joined up, but I didn't really realize, I thought that was just kind of the end, so we were kind of our own team, so it would have been nice to,
Didn't realize it was one project.
yeah.
I thought it was 3.
Especially when there's 6 puzzles to solve in one room. And we've solved 3 or 4 of them, but we ignored 2 of them. I'm thinking that we're
Moving forward.
moving forward.
Figured, okay, we just, good, we bypassed the red herrings,
Yeah.
the shiny objects.
So when did you guys recognize that it was a team thing? Was it only when you left?
Actually, when the other team had let us know that they
They needed
needed
something from water.
from water, they needed a key or something.
Was it the,
Yeah.
the
Or
computers?
key
or-
fob.
Code.
Yeah,
Code
code, there was a
or-
code.
Benoit kind of told us at one point, he's like, when you figure that out, tell the other rooms, because it might help them.
Yeah, or pretty early on, I knew that we were part of, that we were working on similar
Mhm.
tasks.
Mhm.
I didn't know that we were going to get together later on, or how they were all going to fit together, but that the intention was to get us to communicate, which is why we had the radio. So
So let's touch on that. So I don't know if you noticed, or those who heard, but Benoit at the start, before anyone went in, he said, each of you will find a walkie-talkie. Use this to communicate with each other. Now,
yeah,
I don't remember that.
so I remember him saying it at the beginning, but I wondered how many people caught it, or how many people had it in their minds, because from watching, I said, Benoit, like, these guys aren't communicating at all between each other. There were basically 2 people that communicated a little bit, right? Charlotte, you asked questions and you gave thoughts at different times, and Brad, you asked questions or gave thoughts at different times. And I asked Benoit, what is this compared to the average group that comes through here? How much walkie-talkie talk? He's like, there's none. He's like, the average group that comes in here has a ton of talk between the different groups. So here's the question. This isn't good or bad, right? But this is a pattern. So what does that mean? Process that a little bit with me. What was going on there? What do you think that's about? What are your thoughts?
We live pretty isolated lives. We're isolated problem solvers.
I think it's a ton of leaders in one place who have problems asking for help.
Who would agree with that? It's kind of, you guys are used to doing things on your own.
yeah, we're used to being different,
Yeah.
thinking differently,
Figuring it out.
and then people. So I almost for me, yeah, the people around me don't think the same way I do. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Could be just well, not field with a tennis racket, but thinking that yeah, we're not used to communicating maybe very well with other like-minded people.
I'm gonna take a wag here and say other groups' probably social groups that regularly interact with each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Close friends.
Very right.
They're already joined.
Or they work together on a regular basis, or they're
Yeah.
used to, figuring things out
They
together.
coalesced already.
Yeah.
So the reason I selected this task actually was for a couple things. Because exactly the point you just made there, like you're all individuals. You're used to leading very isolated lives, but what is the one thing you need to have in order to be really successful?
Team.
A team. How are you going to work with a team if you are just working by yourself? So you've got to open up your mind to that. The other thing that was interesting, so you were a team, is that right? Paul,
Sam.
Sam and Brad, okay.
I know it. Joseph.
Or,
And
yeah,
then Andrew and
sorry,
Larry.
Andrew, and Andrew, Brad, and Larry.
Yeah.
So I could see you guys struggling. There's very two strong personalities, like and leaders in a positive way. Brad, I would have assumed you would have been jumping into a leadership role. Larry's a very passive person. I assumed you'd be in a leadership role, like okay, this is what we're doing. And so it's to identify what your role is. I mean, you had a struggle because
But she was doing well, so they didn't want to affect it.
But that's good to recognize that.
And I just did my own thing. He went did his, I did my own thing. He did his, but we
Yeah.
talked a lot.
Yeah.
But if you don't recognize that in yourself,
Yeah.
then you can just pull right back or be really confrontational and get
Which
nowhere.
yeah, exactly.
Right? So you have to know yourself
Yeah.
and then understand what the other people's strengths are. When I did the room, if I was in that group, the way I would do it is I'm a leader, but I'm a silent leader. Like I stand back and I watch and I study and I wait and then I'll step in here and there. But I won't be confrontational. I'll let everybody do their own thing. Then as I see things aren't working, then I'll step in.
See, that's what I was waiting for too, but she was doing a good job, so I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
let me
exactly.
do something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Divide and conquer, right?
Mhm.
So it's to understand, and then to do business with people. I said this in our ride home. If you want to learn a person's personality, whether you want to do business with them or not, play golf with them, play cash flow with them, play a game with them. How they play the game is how they live their life. And that's why so much business is done on the golf course, right? If they kick the ball, no, that doesn't count. Don't worry about that.
See, Italian foot wedge.
Yeah, exactly. So it's so reflect back and where do you fit in that scenario? Are you the passive, stay behind? And there's nothing right or wrong. It's just to understand your strength. So moving forward, you select the right people on your team.
And you-
Daryl is very quiet.
Yeah.
Well, he's
You
a
guys
process. But you're a processor.
You guys work awesome as a
Yeah.
team because she's a definite leader and he follows everything to a T.
Absolutely, and
They've already
actually
told
probably
us.
it probably wouldn't be, when you guys do things like that, it should be a good thing for you to separate a little bit and get accustomed to working with others as well, because you know each other so well, it's just natural.
Yeah, I let them do their own thing because I could see the dynamic right away, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'll utilize their help, but I'll do my own thing.
Yeah. If I had known it was going to be broken into 3 separate rooms, I would have suggested that.
Yeah, and that was on me. As soon as you guys were in the room, I went, I didn't break them up. And so that was on me. That was definitely not on you.
Because that was already a good working dynamic.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, I mentioned it to Ben about it. He's like, no, isn't that what you want us to
Yeah,
do?
because you
really?
said you
That's
should
what you
split
said?
them up. You guys should be split up. Because I
Yeah.
said, I'm red. And you go, well, I'll go red. No, you don't. Go to another room.
Who said you should be split?
Andrew.
Yeah, Ben wanted, because he's like,
Depends what
his
the
thinking is
objective
they want
is.
to get out of the room, so if they know.
Yeah,
catch that. I
he
didn't catch that.
realized, yeah.
It was cool to work with them, that dynamic between them though. It was kind of neat.
You're the third wheel, yeah.
Yeah, and just to see how they work well together, so I'm not gonna break that up, so
Yeah.
I tried to find other things to do, and it was hard in the first room, but then we got to that one puzzle that said, do this first and then that, and I realized that the only things sequential were the ones that said it, so I was like, okay, then it broke up, and we kind of joined when we got stumped, and then kind of looked around.
But he knew in 2 weeks it's going to be split up anyway, so you wanted
That's-
extra if you are.
It was fun, though. It was fun.
And it's really fun when you figured something out when you were stuck on something, and then all of a sudden you'd look, wait a minute, oh, that's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got excited. Okay.
Yeah, and then you kind of got a momentum, you got a
Yeah.
couple, and then you get stuck.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's go back to those patterns of maybe not communicating at times for whatever reason. Here's my guess. Correct me where I'm wrong. Let's discuss it a little bit. My guess is that, and this comes from what I'm segueing from what Brad mentioned. He said we're all a little different. So if you in a culture, in a place where you are reminded of how different you are constantly as an entrepreneur thinker, as an investor, if you are reminded constantly about how different you are, what natural effect does that have on a person over time?
It can be frustrating.
Okay.
Because I find that well in school, right?
Mhm.
There's some people that, yes, but the majority of them, just the way they talk and everything, it's,
Separate yourself.
Sorry, what was the question again? I zoned out for a sec.
This group is a really different group. We talked about how weird we are, right? Yesterday?
Hey, speak for yourself.
I am speaking for myself. So we're all different to start off with. We're reminded of that difference all the time in our culture. I mean, Rick, when you go in a room, like a grocery store or a normal office or whatever, you're different.
Oh, yeah.
It's not average, it's not normal to own a bunch of businesses and to, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So as we are reminded constantly about how different we are, what effect does that have on a person over time? What does that, so bring it home, now, what effect does that have on you guys over time?
You can be isolated, I guess.
Yeah, you
Isolated?
tend to seclude yourself a little. It's not really on purpose, but you tend to push people away. Not really push them, but you don't communicate anymore, and it just happens naturally.
Sure. So what purpose does that have? What purpose does it have to feel kind of isolated and to push people away? What purpose does it serve?
Ego.
What?
Ego.
It can. I don't think that's the base.
I think that, I mean, I don't know if I push people away, but I sort of separate myself from people that don't help to either to benefit my life, to benefit my family's life, to make things better for me. I don't want to be a part of their energy. I don't want to have that.
Negative energy.
Yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. So
So it's protective on some level, is it not?
It's comfort, right? Because you've got some people that you can't connect with, but on the other hand, I have friends that are constantly picking my brain,
Yeah.
and then it's like, okay, but that's exhausting
Always being the one fixing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think there's kind of the two things that are coming out of this. One is that it's, and like I said, ego can be a part of that. It can come out of that. I don't see a lot of ego in this group. What I hear and see are people who have protected themselves and gotten to a place where they need to be comfortable to do their work, to be able to function in the way that, on some level, to separate yourself and to do the things that are coming up in your brains and the potential situations that you see, the future possibilities. You push people away a little bit and protect yourselves, correct? I'll speak for myself. I've done that. I was sharing with Andrew yesterday. Like, I took it as a badge of honor. So, in my life, there are certain words that are really strong words that I take as badges of honor. Like weird, strange, odd. I call myself those names all the time. And you watch me when I use them with delight. Like, I am odd. I am abnormal. I'm weird. I'm like I say those words and I'm excited about them because that's separating me even more. And I use that as a comfort to myself because I've never thought the way normal people think. And so it protected me to say, no, I'm odd, and that's a good thing. And so, go ahead.
It's weird because I was never like that growing up. I was into a million sports, blah, blah, blah. Conformed to the sport thing, did what everyone did.
Yeah.
The more educated I got, the dynamic shifted to exactly what you said. I'm like, I thought other people were weirdos, but I'm like, actually, I think I am,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, both are true.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
One word that meant a lot to me when I was kind of at the end of high school and I started traveling around the world a lot was independent. It's a word that's seen as really important. It's seen as a badge of honor in our culture. If you're independent, that you're not like childlike. Dependent, oof, that's not okay in our culture typically. And so I grew in that, and I took that on and tried to become even more independent. I was the person, my family jokes about this, like people watch Amazing Race or Fear Factor or whatever on TV, and they say Mark would be perfect for that. Mark would be perfect. You could drop him off anywhere on the planet, he'd find his way home in a few days. And so I've got this even status among people around me, which can become ego now, but the status of like Mark can do it all on his own. Now, that was extremely beneficial to move me away from people that weren't helping me. My high school buddies, I don't want to spend time with them, most of them, because they're still doing things that don't benefit anyone in their life.
They're
And-
good for one night. I go golfing every year because it's a good stress release for
There
me.
you go.
But if I went for one night, it would be perfect.
Yeah.
But it's the next night, and the next night after that, then
Yeah.
it's like, it just grows old after one night.
Yeah, yeah. There's a reconnection or whatever, but then
Yeah.
after that, it's like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? We're not going anywhere again.
Yeah.
So one challenge that I have, and this happened when I was in Tibet. I was challenged by this team leader. We were with a group of people, and this team leader pulled me aside and said, "Mark, you are going to destroy your team with your independence." He didn't say it in those words, but that's basically what he said. And it shocked me. Because up until that point, independence was freedom, independence was success, independence was protection and everything else. And I started thinking about it, and for the next probably 6 years, I thought about it a ton. And I've come to realize for myself that becoming independent, separating myself, and not communicating in the same ways as other people communicate, was a really good thing for a period of time in my life. Because it allowed me to realize I'm not weird bad, I'm weird good. But then there was a second stage of growth that I'm still learning and getting through, and that is independence, full independence, means you will never take quantum leaps in your business and life. Because in order to do so, look at any technology that human history has used to take giant leaps, any law systems, governments, or cultures, and you will always find interdependence. Not independence, not dependence, interdependence. And so I think that we live in a fairly dependent culture, right? We depend on teachers for things, we depend on leaders for things, we depend on parents for things, we depend on, and I think there was this, on the pendulum, we're very much this way in many ways. And I went this way. And that was good, I learned a lot of things. And now I think I'm coming back to going, well, there's good in both. And so how can I leverage myself and other people to get what we all want? Does that make sense? So I call it interdependence. When we work together, we still have autonomy, and yet we work together. That's what this is. Go ahead.
The problem is finding good people.
Yes.
So that's the problem, because I'm going through that now.
Yes.
It is what it is. You'll
Well,
eventually find them.
it is what it is, and where are you right now?
And we expect people to work on the same level and think the same way we do, and if you don't, go
Yes.
away.
Yes.
Yes.
So that's the protection part again, right, Charlotte? That's the protection part of going, if you don't think like me, then there's something wrong with the situation.
Well, this is the dynamic you're looking for.
Mhm.
But sometimes you may get two leaders,
Mhm.
but if you can adapt, it can work.
Yes.
But like Ken said, if you can't, it's mayhem. It's miserable.
Or just you keep bumping into the same wall over
Yeah,
and over again, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the problem was, I think, it's my education which I got. I came from bridge system. In those days, you have got 10 or 8 subjects. The teacher says this, the book says this, you're supposed to study those stuff. No teamwork. We never had teamwork project except in physics, chemistry lab for just 45 minutes or a lesson. And then you wait until the end of the year to do all the exams. But here you get marks just for showing up, talking to people in the class and whatever. For us it's almost a year before you do the exams, and you're not supposed to ask questions. The teacher says this, that's what it is. So that mindset also, for me, I think it's find it very hard to work in groups. I'm trying to change it,
Yeah.
but I mean, it shows up.
Is there any sports like cricket, rugby?
Football, soccer.
Yeah, no, sports I played, soccer.
Actually, you know what's funny that now that you say that, I kind of look back on it. I did this. It's a fad in Alberta anyway. We're doing like wine and paintings. So there's a instructor. They have a little painting, and there was like 20 of us
Yeah.
that had a little thing, and we drink wine. And anyway, I believe you're supposed to follow the painting, but I don't know. But at the end of it, every single one of them looked like that painting except mine. So it's just weird. I just don't like. I like doing my own thing, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it looked great. To everyone else, it didn't look like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a perfect metaphor of kind of our culture in so many ways, right? And so that's why I asked the question, were you even really listening at the beginning when he said, use the walkie-talkies to communicate? Or is it that we as a group are so used to being, we will figure out a way, and the instructions we're not going to follow anyway, because usually they don't lead us to the place we want. So like we'll hear them, but we won't internalize them. We'll do our own thing and we'll figure it out, because that's what we do. Is that part of it, you think?
Yeah, probably. I think well, there's a lot of stuff going on at the beginning that like there was some pretty rapid fire instructions that
Yeah.
I think maybe that was just one of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know about.
Yeah. Well, and that's fair.
There was a lot of stuff in church, like even just to get into the room.
Yeah,
Things were. Yeah, just.
Ben was said this so many times, you know, it's in auto for him, and it went faster than I could assimilate it.
Well,
Yeah,
and he did
for
speak
sure.
very quickly. I paid attention to that at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was explaining things slowly, and then when he stood in front of that door and said, "Welcome, you're in the apocalypse," and then he went he just went through them pretty quick. So that's true. That's absolutely true.
Does that not reflect real life?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's
Every
kinda like the
every
puzzle.
zombie apocalypse I've been in.
Fill that out,
I
Ken.
think you missed my point.
Fill that out, Ken.
Well, just, so you're thrown into a new environment of investing in real estate. You know, that's the one thing we all have in common. So you now have to learn, you're starting from ground zero, and you have to learn all this stuff. And people you speak with, they will naturally, you know, not everybody, but I mean, so you speak with someone who's got some experience, and they're going on as if you should know this stuff, and you're trying to keep up. So you're going to have to learn how to slow them down, or you're going to have to learn how to keep up, or you're going to have to adjust, and just be aware of that.
So let me ask you this: when you do training, do you assume everybody knows what you know, or no?
I fall into that trap,
Yeah, 'cause
yes.
I do that too.
And that's, this book here is so painful to read, for me to read,
Yeah.
because it's so basic.
Yeah.
But when I was writing that book, Dave kept saying, dumb it down. I said, it is dumb. He said, no, dumb it down more.
Yeah.
And so that really drove home to me how, you know, to relate to somebody who's just coming in. And it's going to be the same thing for you. So you want to bring in an investor who knows nothing about real estate. Well, that's why this book is so good as a tool for you to help you educate them, because it's so basic.
It's an easy read.
It's an easy read, and it just gives them the very basic information. That's all they need. They don't need to know how to analyze the building. They're counting on you to do that. But they need to know that the building needs to be analyzed, or that there are different profit centers, etc. But if you just go in and start, I mean, Paul would be, you know, because you're so numbers, you know, and you get excited by it, you know, and just throw all these numbers, and I'm saying, whoa, I don't care about that stuff. I just want to know the end result and that it's a good deal. And I need to know, so you need to know that that's what that person's looking for. And you can't adjust that person, you gotta adjust you in order to fit that mold. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But yeah, dumb it down.
Two subjects behind. Just back to working solo. I guess everyone's already said this, but we've been disappointed with trying to form teams before, trying to build teams. Perhaps our methodology, or perhaps the raw material we were working with, i.e. people.
Yeah, well, people is the hardest thing. And up until 2010 for myself, I was just Joanne and I, forever. And then all of a sudden I was thrown into an environment where, in Edmonton, where I go from being by myself with a company of 100 people. And just trying to understand, I was just in awe with the whole thing, overwhelmed by it all, and trying to figure out who's doing what, and just watching the dynamics. And it chewed me up and spit me out in 3 years, because I wasn't prepared for that. But what I learned from that was the value of the relationship, having the right person. The education is nothing. That you can get from books. You can get that anywhere. It's the connection with the people. And that's when it really fell apart for me out there, was when they started introducing different dynamics through different people. And I had to get out. So that comes back to that, I don't know.
Is this the education business, or is this the real estate business?
Well, the real estate business when I started the brokerage. But it was just the dynamics of all of the people involved, and everybody's egos, and everybody